Hello everyone, welcome to Inconvenient Truths. I'm your host, Jennifer Zeng. Last week, on November 10th, the US and the CCP suddenly released a joint declaration on enhancing climate action in the 2020s. This declaration surprised representatives at the COP26 climate summit. As Xi Jinping was absent from this summit, people thought China wouldn't get involved at all. So, what are the stories behind the joint declaration? Could the large scale blackouts in China happening since September have anything to do with this joint declaration? Are there other secret deals between the US and the CCP that we don't know yet? Today, I'd like to discuss these issues. In early October, I did a show about the large-scale blackouts in China and the possible reasons behind them. I mentioned 5 possibilities, including coal shortage, preparing for a war against Taiwan, the CCP's proactive reduction of carbon emissions to please the Biden administration, etc. But I didn't discuss the last one in detail. Chinese scholar Chen Xiaolong did some research and found out some important facts which indicate that there could be much more to this joint declaration. Now let's present what he found. Since mid-September, over 20 provinces in China suddenly experienced power shortages or blackouts. Factories were asked to avoid the peak of electricity consumption. Shenyang City even cut off electricity in residential areas. Some cities shut off their traffic lights and caused a lot of chaos. Some cities shut down elevators or water supplies. People even couldn't recharge their cell phones at some places. So why the sudden lack of electricity? After analyzing the demand and supply of electricity, Chen Xiaolong's conclusion was the blackouts didn't come from any major changes with the demand or supply. Rather, they were because of an order from the CCP's central government. I did some research too and found that the CCP did issue a notice on September 11th. So this notice is called Plan on Improving the Energy Consumption Intensity and Total Usage Control System. This plan gives out an annual target for total energy consumption and issues a 5-year target to each province for the provinces to control the energy consumption intensity and total usage. It is called the double control target. So every province is given a goal that they must reach. The document says that the CCP has set an annual energy consumption ceilings for each province and city based on how much energy they've used before, and no province or city can go over that limit. So after each province received their quota, they started to make quotas for local governments, and the local governments set limits for factories and other departments, etc. So after 1 week, around September 16th, each place and department received their energy-saving quota, and a blackout campaign thus started all over China. So according to Chen Xiaolong, this order from the CCP's central government, that is, the National Development and Reform Commission, was the real reason behind the nationwide blackouts. This document is not a secret, and some Chinese media also had reported on it. However, nobody dared to say that the central government was responsible for the blackouts. The next question is, why did the CCP suddenly make such a plan? Or why did the CCP suddenly limit energy consumption? Was there a US factor? To answer these questions, let's check a timeline of events. So from April 14th to 17th, John Kerry, former U.S. Secretary of State and Special Presidential Envoy for Climate, visited Shanghai to discuss climate issues. By the way, the Special Presidential Envoy for Climate is a new position under the current U.S. administration. Seems there was no such an envoy before. See this photo I tweeted at that time. The CCP hired a bus from a travel company for John Kerry and no longer arranged for officials at the state councilor level to meet him. How humiliating. So from this, you can see that the CCP didn't care at all about John Kerry or his mission. In early September, Kerry visited China a second time, but as this report says, he got a cold shoulder. You can see from this photo, he only met the CCP's foreign minister Wang Yi in a video call. So what's the point of him going to China for a video call? He could do that from the US, right? This report says that even the Taliban got a better reception. At that time, Wang Yi gave no ground at all, saying that the US must change its attitude toward China before the CCP could cooperate with them on climate issues. Then, several days later, on September 9th, Joe Biden had a phone call with Xi Jinping. The White House released a one-paragraph readout, virtually saying nothing about what had been discussed during that phone call. 2 days later, on September 11th, the CCP suddenly issued the plan to cut energy usage. And starting from the following day, from September 12th to September 14th, the 12th US-China high-level political party leaders dialogue was held. This virtual event was organized by the George Bush Foundation for US-China Relations and the International Department of the Central Committee of the CCP. Leaders from both the Republican and Democratic parties of the US attended that meeting. But little was disclosed regarding what had been said or achieved in that virtual meeting. No English media covered that event. What you are seeing now is a short report from the website of the George Bush Foundation for US-China Relations. However, the CCP's most important mouthpieces, China Daily, Global Times, and CGTN all covered it as an important event. See the titles they use political parties on China US call of political parties of China US call for strengthening mutual trust cooperation. China's top diplomat urges US to correct wrong China policies. China-US hold 12th political party leaders dialogue. And the CCP's embassy in the US also published a report and emphasized the attendance of Yang Jiechi, director of the Office of the Central Commission for Foreign Affairs. Obviously, the CCP needed such an event to show the Chinese people that it had gotten endorsements from both the Republican and the Democratic parties of the US, although nobody knows what was really going on at that event. And then, 10 days later, on September 24th, Huawei CFO Meng Wanzhou, who had been under house arrest in Canada for 3 years for violating US laws, was released and returned to China like a national hero. At that time, China had just started to experience massive blackouts, But in order to welcome Meng Wanzhou, huge slogans were lit up and projected onto a skyscraper to welcome her. Although nobody knows exactly whether there is a connection between the CCP's order to cut energy use and the release of Meng Wanzhou, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki did admit on September 27th that Xi Jinping discussed Meng Wanzhou's release with Joe Biden during their phone call on September 9th. So Chen Xiaolong thinks that the CCP was playing an old Chinese plot to please Biden to exchange for things he wanted, including Meng Wanzhou's release. This old plot was called 苦肉计 in Chinese, which means self-harming plot. There was a famous story during China's Three Kingdoms period about 1,800 years ago. At that time, in order to deceive his enemy Zhou Yu, the military general of one of the three kingdoms, beat up his fellow general Huang Gai to confuse his enemy Cao Cao. Huang Gai gave Cao Cao a piece of false information, which led to a big failure for Cao Cao in the battle. Huang Gai was only able to win Cao Cao's trust after Cao Cao learned that Huang Gai had been badly beaten up by Zhou Yu. So Cao Cao thought Huang Gai must really hate Zhou Yu. So Cao Cao believed Huang Gai's false information and suffered a huge loss. So from then on, this kind of plot has been called a self-harming plot. Huang Gai willingly suffered and sacrificed a little to fool the enemy. So Chen Xiaolong thinks that Xi Jinping was using the same plot to exchange what he wanted from Biden at the expense of ordinary Chinese people and the Chinese economy. He said the CCP's attitude on climate made a U-turn before and after Biden and Xi's phone call on September 9th. So there could have been some kind of secret deal that was made during that phone call. Then we all know that the US and the CCP released a joint declaration on climate change on November 10th, just before Biden and Xi's virtual meeting on November 15th. Although not much was achieved through this meeting, and I don't think there are many people who would take the CCP's promises on anything seriously. The CCP has made a lot of fanfare about this meeting, making it a victory for Xi Jinping and the CCP. Xi Jinping claimed a while ago that the East was rising while the West was declining. Compared with 2 years ago, the CCP does seem to have made a lot of inroads. With all the other countries busy dealing with the COVID disaster, the CCP is exporting more goods to the US, and nobody is talking about holding the CCP accountable for the spread of the pandemic anymore. Has the CCP really won again? I don't think so. Its ideology has been proven to be a failure, and its practices have only brought disasters to mankind. Stealing, cheating, killing, and a self-harming plot cannot last long. It will bring the demise to itself sooner or later. The problem is, do we want to bring us down together with it, or do we want to stay away from it, or even help the Chinese people as well as ourselves to get rid of it? Well, that's all I plan to say for today. Thank you so much for watching. Again, please subscribe to and share my channel if you haven't. And also please consider signing up for membership or making a donation through my website at jenniferzengblog.com. If you have already signed up and given me your address but haven't received my gift yet, please wait a little longer, and as I'm waiting for more orders so that I can do the posting all at once. I'm an economist. in terms of how to save time, as I'm always super busy. Thank you so much for watching. Now let me see if there are any questions or comments for me to respond to. Weapons. So Alexandra's Wolf said weapons build up. Yeah, could be. I discussed that in my program in October already. Alex Ladin said, I appreciate all the research you do for this. Thank you so much. Yes, I do spend a lot of time on each show to do the research so that I can present something valuable, and there are often times that what I present are not covered actually by other media, as you can see already. Alexander Wolf said, CCP wants the new Green Deal money. Yes, I think the trillions of dollars, much of that could end up in the CCP's pocket. That is very unfortunate. I'm not sure how many Americans have realized that. Frosty Fix said, thank you and good analysis, and I will sign up. Thank you so much. Okay, so it seems we don't have that many questions today. So that's all for today. Thank you so much. Have a nice weekend, and I'll see you next week.